Good morning, Oklahoma. I'm Curtis Terry and welcome to SUNUP. Well, the kiddos are back in school and those fall months are on the horizon, which means wheat planting time is just around the corner. Well, SUNUP's Elizabeth Hokett caught up with Dr. Amanda Silva, who has advice on wheat planting, as well as share some of her data from her recent variety trials.
We're here now with Dr. Amanda Silva. So Amanda, you've had some wheat variety trials going on this past summer. Talk to us a little bit about what you've been finding with those.
Sure, yes, we had about 13 locations of variety trials planted around the state, but on total 40 experiments happening in Oklahoma. And out of those, I would say the most interesting this year was the comparison we have with the standard and intensive management, just because those we get very good observations on the varieties when they receive fungicide and they receive nitrogen. And in those, farmers can look at our website for Chickasha, Lahoma, Apache, and they can really see, especially for Lahoma, we had a yield increase of up to 40 bushels for when you apply fungicide and when you apply nitrogen. And of course, those very large responses to intensive management were based on varieties' susceptibility to stripe rust. So the most susceptible varieties had more gain with the fungicide application. Those are one of the trials that we are doing in Oklahoma that is very informative for producers and really highlight the importance for farmers to know what are the disease resistance package of the varieties that they are growing.
Yeah, people might start thinking about going ahead and planting right now. Is there any differences in varieties that might help people that are in more of a drought situation versus they've got a lot of rain recently? Talk a little bit about that.
I think the most difference there farmers can look is actually the date of planting. As you know, we have some farmers that will try to plant early to get forage production in wheat, and so they really need to pay attention at the sensitivity of germination in hot soils, as those characteristics vary between varieties. Coleoptile length could be another trait for them to look at. Another thing that they can be looking at is the ability of the varieties to germinate fast, not only in hot soils, but how quick that variety is out of the gate, especially as we start delaying planting. So last year we had a good fall, so farmers were in most cases able to plant in time. Some cases in the state it was a little bit dry, and so planting date was delayed. And in those situations, I would really try to find some varieties that are quicker in germination, especially as we delay planting.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the yields of your different variety trials.
So yields vary, especially if you were in a very dry condition, but in general I would say it was a little bit better than I expected. We had very good yields, up to 80 bushels in the trials. We also had some 40 bushels, even lower than that, and so it depends. But some things that farmers can be looking at is really the comparison of management and how those varieties respond to intensive management. Also in Reno, where we have grain only and dual purpose trials in the same fields, so they can really learn how those varieties handle being grazed. So that's a very good opportunity there. And we really see a reduction in yield with the grazing depending on the year, depending on the scenario. Last year we did, and it was large. Probably we had some other things happening in our trials, but to have such a large range in reduction in yield, but that varies too.
So what about producers that may be just grazing their wheat instead of doing dual purpose? What kind of things should they be looking at?
For those producers, they'll be looking at forage overall. Now, if they are in a dual purpose, then they will be looking at forage, but they will also be looking at the ability of the variety to recover the grazing, so the canopy removal. So that is really important, especially and I mean that in the spring, right? So after you remove cattle, so can that variety really build up the canopy fast and well? And so those are, I would say, the recovery is almost like even more important than forage to have in a variety, because forage we may manage with seeding rate sometimes, and so that's one of the traits that I'll be looking at.
So lastly, Amanda, I know we've went through a lot of stuff already, but producers may be in a little bit of a different situation with the weather this year maybe than they were last year. What are some recommendations for planting this year that you might have?
Well, we always like to remind them about controlling volunteer wheat. That is really important to protect our crop from virus diseases. In soil testing, knowing what is the fertility of the field they are. Of course, variety selection is a big one. And so use the data we provide in our website from the variety trials. Those are trials that are run by our program and on farmers' fields, so really realistic for different conditions in Oklahoma, and that could really help them to make decisions on a variety to plant.
All right, thanks, Amanda. And for more information about those variety trials, just go to sunup.okstate.edu.